Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining again on a Sunday, on a weekend. That a time where that we usually like to use to relax and regenerate. But for me, at least, it's also a time where I can make a conscious choice about the things that I want to do and I want to improve on. And so it's really great to see you being here. Um, I think because we are also like a group of I think 10 people at the moment, just also feel encouraged to turn your camera on. Of course, you don't have to if you don't want to. I personally like also when it's a little bit more personal, but of course, this is up to you. Yeah, if you want to leave your camera off, you can leave it off. If you want to turn it on, then yeah, then you're more than encouraged to turn you on because I personally really like to see people's faces. Okay, so then Anna, anything else? Otherwise, just let's get
Good to go.
started.
Let's get started.
Okay, so then let's go on the second workshop, second out of three of our growth plan setting series. So, and without further ado, let's dive straight in. So Anna is also going to watch the chat a little bit. So last time we had always like this reflection parts, this 1 minute parts, but we figured that that's that would require much more time than we often have. So so this time, just when there are any questions happening, just post them in the chat, and yeah, we are trying our best to also address them throughout the workshop. So because we want to make this a good experience for you as well, right? One more thing about the workbook that we promised. We're gonna upload this at the latest by the end of workshop 3, so please bear with us, and with all the reflection questions from last workshop, this workshop, and the coming workshop, of course. Okay, so here we go. So last time we were basically talking about about prioritization of our growth plan, to be aware of the direction we want to grow and how to approach this. And this time it's really also narrowing down what we want to learn, like what is our learning topic, how do I know what to learn, and also having an approach or hopefully like an idea or framework of how can I choose the right learning resources for me. So we kick this session off though with mindset again, and because it's not only about the learning gaps that we perceive or that we think we have, but it's also about things that we might have to unlearn, because the way we approach things and the way we think, what determines success or leverage growth is also based on certain mental models that we adopted from our childhood, from our family, from school. And the question is this mental model of how I need to grow, is it actually still true? And I would like to kick this off with like these two quotes, which kind of form the premises of this workshop today. It's not what we don't know that prevents us from succeeding. It's what we know that just ain't so. That is our greatest obstacle. From Josh Bellings. So things that we think we know, but are not necessarily true anymore. And we get into that into more detail. And from Stephen Kotler, I really love this guy. If someone else is driving the learning bus, you can apply these techniques and they work up to a point, but because the curriculum is not your own, its goals will be different. So it's also like basically start off with realizing is, that the learning steps I'm taking, are they really based on what I really want or what I decide for myself? Are they in alignment with my goals, or is it maybe informed by goals that that maybe society or parents, teachers, preachers believe as to be true? So because we want to be in our driver's seat of our lives as life focus, right? Okay, so just to quickly recap where we left off last time. So last time we looked at our learning growth plan, organized by priorities. We talked about FOMO and FOBO, fear of better opportunities. Then we also figured out, okay, so what of the things I think I need to learn, what are the things I can do now, what leads to immediate action, and what are the things that I need to schedule that are important but not yet actionable, that require a little bit more time. Now, here's the thing, and could it be that we still approach this concept from an old way of thinking? And an example is, for example, which I'm coming to in the next slide, yeah, learning and unlearning. If, for example, last time you put in your scheduling area, for example, okay, I need to pursue, for argument's sake, a master's degree at an Ivy League school in order to reach my goal of launching a business. So yeah, that sounds like an important goal, which is actionable in the future. But is this really the right growth journey? Is that mental model of approaching that, is that really true? And here comes in the concept of not only learning but also unlearning. And Einstein already encapsulated this very well. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used to when we created them. So might this mental model still serve us the way we approach it or not? And then one from Arvin Toeffler: the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, relearn. So much more important than we could just like go off and say, okay, these are the best strategies for you to jump this off, but having the capacity to always challenge your assumption and to look at it from a different perspective and ask yourself, is that really true? Is this like the only way of doing that? That is something that is going to really leverage, because things that were true 20 years ago might not be true now or in the future. So, okay. So like the first thing is like, challenge this old mental models. And this is the example I was just giving. Like when I look at my goals, are my mental models on learning really still relevant and effective, or maybe not so? Yeah. For example, I need to get into an Ivy League business school to be successful. It's also, and I'd be curious, like what the narrative in is where you live, like in your country or culture or family, regarding learning and success. One example I have when it's a book I'm reading right now, and it's called Teach Like a Champion, and the subtitle is helping students to succeed on their way to college. And this is the mental model that that college is the ultimate goal, and I think it's just important to be aware of that and to challenge that. And this guides us to like one example, like one idea. And this is one principle that I found, and this is called like this one level higher thinking, asking always for the highest leverage point behind your goal. So, for example, you are, let's say you are in the state of pursuing to go to college, and you do everything to get, all the credits, you learn to play an instrument, the violin, I don't know, join the debating team, and you are in this flow state because it seemed like the right decision at that time, but you never really question your way out of it. So basically, like, this is an example of maybe like a bad return of investment, because you spend years of your life working towards a goal, but you never really questioned what is behind that goal. Yeah. So, or where your idea of success comes from. So like all the energy you invest in this for years, like I have lots of friends and that were studying a certain, a certain degree or area for years and years and years until they found it 3 or 4 years later, oh, it has actually nothing to do with me. But this was my preconceived model of success. Or another friend of mine, like he grew up with a with the idea, okay, in order to successfully, you need to learn to be an engineer or to be a doctor or to be this, and spend the years of your life to just pursue that, because this is like a mental model of how success could look like. So what is basically the the leverage point behind this? Anna, I'm not sure if you have anything more to add to that.
Yeah, with this one, similar to you, I have friends and acquaintances who kind of followed what their parents told them that they needed to do. For example, I had a friend, a classmate, who was really good at drawing, and their parents were saying, hey, you should be an architect, because in our country, you should either be an architect, a lawyer, or a doctor to be successful. But she was really good at drawing like apartments and interior design. So I encouraged her to pursue what she loves more than like the main architecture part of things. Just go with the smaller part, which is the interior design part. And she actually did that. And she told her parents, I can do different things with my skill of drawing, which was interesting, because when we don't question these things and we just pursue something, we get to a point where one of my other friends who started in architecture, they actually then went to haute couture. What do you call it? Clothing design, right? Because that was where their passion was. But they were just following what their parents had told them. They had this mental model of architecture means success. So and the example that Christian gave you with the going into the flow state, it's really interesting when you follow this path that you think is like something else that on your checklist of, yes, I went to school, now I have to go to college or pursue something specific. And you might be enjoying the moment. You might be enjoying that college life. You might be enjoying even the violin lesson and all the extracurricular things they make you do. But at some point, you realize that you're climbing Mount Everest while that wasn't your goal. Your goal was to climb K2 or another mountain. And you've invested time, energy, and money, right? Spent years climbing the wrong mountain. So that's why it's so important to have clarity on your goals and your life vision before choosing a growth path, because we are constantly growing, but are we growing toward the right direction?
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Anna, for illustrating. I really love that mountain example. Yeah, the question: are we climbing the right mountain? Is it, And this is always like this. I forget how Vision called these questions. I think one was like the basically keep asking yourself, I do X, so I can. So I want to go to college, so I can have a good job. Why do I want to have a good job? So I can. So basically keep going on and on until you realize, okay, so it's like one possible pathway out of many, but maybe not my pathway. So, and I really would like to see this unlearning, not as like, okay, that's a starting point, I unlearn and now I go my way. No, it's a habit. It's something that needs to be constantly honed and developed. It's a capacity that is really, really essential. We could run an entire workshop on just on learning, I think. Okay, but yeah, let's carry on. Again, yeah, please, if there are any questions or any comments, also just always put them in the chat box. We definitely gonna look at that. All right, so now let's come from challenging our mental models and of our learning to how might we narrow down our learning and growth focus. So one important point I want to make here, it's what we have here is a proposition. It's not a definitive list of things, and it's really important that you treat this workshop and what we're talking about as nothing else but a inspiration for your own self-inquiry. Because some things might work for you. So like lots of things we discuss here are things that worked for us or we consider important and that have worked for other people in the past. But really, have this, also like unlearning mindset, right? To and really take away what you think is relevant for you. Okay, so so one thing we were looking at is the question of like regret minimization. So if you look at your goals and you might find it challenging, okay, what to prioritize on. One question might be, looking at my goals, what would I most regret not having pursued by the time you are old and looking back at your life? Now, here's the thing, of course, we cannot definitely know in the future what we might have regretted. If you remember like FOMO and FOBO. But Anna, like this morning, gave this very powerful question. What about we choose not to regret the decision we made? Because then we get again into this analysis paralysis, and or like also the decision we choose not to make. Yeah. So and I think it's also it's then helpful to really realize also, like in 10 years time, will that still be relevant to me, or maybe likely not so relevant to me? FOBO, thank you for that question. Fear, we addressed this in the last workshop, fear of better options. So it's basically when you, so when there's like a learning opportunity, like you want to take this course, but you ponder about it and you don't take action because there might be a better option around the corner. I think the most vivid example or clear example is like the maybe not so much about learning, but the dating world, for example. Yeah, when we use Tinder and we keep on swiping because there might be like a better partner around the corner, and that's why we don't make a commitment to it. Yeah, but not making a commitment also means we don't take action, and this is what we want to address here. Yeah, that our learning doesn't just lead to knowledge, but also to action. I hope that, was that clear? Thanks again for the question. Anna, do you have something to add to regret minimization?
Yeah, I just want to give an example from my life. When I was a teenager, I had this kind of fear of missing out, and I realized that fear was because I was afraid that I will regret not reading all the articles or the books and all those things. So I made the decision that I will choose not to regret things. And it's kind of what I use all the time right now. And thankfully, I don't have any regrets because it's my choice. So the thing is, as Christian said, it's a good kind of decision-making framework to say, not to ask, will I regret this? Because as Christian said, we might not know what might happen in the future. But you would say, okay, based on what I know right now and what I have right now, I will choose not to regret this decision. And sit with that sentence. When you say it, sit with it and see if you still fear that you will regret it, then there's something there for you, right? Say, okay, apparently I'm going to regret this. So I need to, this isn't the right decision. I need to revisit the decision. So basically, it is though important to choose not to regret your decisions so that we can take steps. Because if we don't do that, we're still in this loop of FOMO and FOBO and constantly changing the subject matter that we're learning or the career we want to pursue, right? So I found it helpful for me. I'm curious if you can experiment with it and let us know if this resonates with you as well. So one of the examples from my life was I chose not to go to university. And I said, I will not regret this decision. I choose not to regret this decision. So I made sure that I didn't regret it. I made sure every time that idea came up of, am I making the right decision? I was like, yeah, no regrets. What can I do next to ensure that the previous decision wasn't the wrong one? So I hope it can be helpful for you as well.
Yeah. Well, like also like preparing this workshop, of course, it like could be like 20 more articles I could read about a certain topic, but I have like 1 week of time, and I kind of need to choose. Okay, I just focusing on these three, and I choose not to regret not having read the other article, because there might be like maybe an even more amazing example explanation there. So also giving like the time and energy we have, it's important to make a decision. Okay, so coming to the 80-20 rule. Oops, no. Here we go. Of another way of how we could narrow down on what we should focusing on first. I didn't include this quote from Bruce Lee here, but if I remember correctly, Anna, the quote went, "I do not fear the man who practiced 10,000 different kicks, but who practiced one kick 10,000 times," right? So this is really helpful, especially when you look at where your knowledge gaps are. And one way, I mean, one amazing tool we have as Lifebookers is our Lifebook assessment. So, and especially the category of interconnectivity, right? The idea that one win somewhere is one win everywhere. So, for example, if your social category is very strong, do you need to invest lots of time and money into a course of how to connect with potential clients as much as somebody would need to, who is like very shy and doesn't like social interaction that much? Yeah, how can I leverage my strength that I already have? Or if it's not my strength, so what are like the highest leverage point that would drive the growth the most in all areas of life? So for me, it was definitely and I think it always comes back for me, at least to character, in terms of taking responsibility, living in accordance to my values, like who am I being every day? So like a year ago, I realized like focusing on my category had like the most impact on the others. Yeah, so 20% on that, just getting into flow of taking responsibility every day and checking that off, had an immense growth because you have a track record. Yeah, so you have to prove to yourself that you take responsibility, and then it leverages the other categories because you're maybe like, yeah, a little bit fearless to take action. So also it's helpful to look at your category of strengths. Yeah, so might there be any skills in your category of strengths that help you leverage your growth in your category of focus? Again, like this social example, if the social category is very strong, it might help you in terms of getting new business opportunities. It might help you in the intellectual domain because you can, it's easy for you to attend conferences, get in touch with people, exchange ideas, and so on and so forth. So I really encourage you to maybe after this call or between this call and next call to go back to your Lifebook assessment and see, okay, what is the category of interconnectivity here, that and what's my category of strength, and how would it impact my category of focus, what I want to improve on. So a concrete example maybe from 2080 from the business world that maybe like many of us have heard before is that 20% of your client drive 80% of your growth. So maybe your time might be more better invested to really focus on this amount of clients who bring the most growth. And from one great example is also learning languages. For example, if I recall correctly, the English language has about 250,000 words. But do you need to learn all 250,000 words in order to learn English? No, because there may be like 5,000 words which are used on a regular basis. Yeah, it helps you to read a newspaper to understand main ideas and concepts. So and this already gives you a head start to leverage your growth in all these areas. Anna, you have something to add?
Yeah, so I think the 80-20 rule is a very powerful tool if we know how to use it the right way, especially when it comes to learning. Again, this is a great tool to help us combat FOMO. So for example, we think that we need to learn a lot about the subject. When we're stuck, we're like, oh, I'm a coach and I don't know anything about marketing, for example. And we think we need to take all the courses and read all the books and articles and listen to a million podcasts. But when we apply the 80-20 rule, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, where are these 20% of the resources that can give me 80% output? How can I spend less time, money, and energy, but gain the most in return? So this is what we're where we want to use the Pareto principle. Even if you want to become an expert into something, we don't want to just jump in and say, I want to be an expert, so I need to learn the 100%. I can't just focus on the 20% or the 80%, right? So the thing that we came to, the realization that Christian and I came to was that it's always good to explore. Just go into the 20%. See if that is really helpful. See if that bridges the knowledge gap you had. And then why invest more time reading more books and even completing a course? Sometimes you start a course and you get the answer, you need to take the next step. You don't need to finish the course to take the next step. Just take the step, especially when you're learning and you're super excited and pumped up by the content. Just go take action immediately. Because here's the thing with traditional knowledge. They say you want to go to school to 12 years, learn everything you need to learn about life, and then go live life and take action. But what happens is we keep revisiting the things we need to use on a daily basis, right? So for example, you take a course about a topic and it takes you like 2 or 3 months to complete, or a Mind Valley quest for 30 days. You complete it and then you want to take action. We're like, yeah, they touched on this in the course. Let me go and spend more time to find that content, to revisit it because I forgot about it. Because it happens, right? So what if we actually take action the moment we learn about it? That's what this rule is all about. Just learn what you need now, immediately, apply it. And then if you're stuck again, go and say, okay, I know where the content is. I know that they are covering this in the course. I just skimmed through it. But I didn't need to learn it then because I'm investing the time twice, right? Because I'm learning now, not applying soon. And when I need it, I need to revisit it again. So you get the point. But when you are applying the 80-20 rule, learning the 20%, you're getting better and better. You're improving your skills. Gradually, what's happening is you're learning those 5,000 words of English, and then you're like, I love English. I want to become an English teacher. Then you add 5,000 words more. And at some point in your life, you become an expert and you get to, well, not necessarily the 250,000 words maybe, but you get close enough. That's the Bruce Lee quote. That's when you actually find out what you really love, what your niche is, and then you put all the energy and the money and the time. Not before, especially when you're in exploration. Just like when you're 17 and you need to decide on what major to choose for college, and then you have different things you want to try, different ideas you want to try. Just experiment with the 20%. I think it's the Christian, correct me if I'm wrong. I've heard from some acquaintances in Germany where before you go to college, you actually go and in some instances do apprenticeship to see if you really have the skills or you really love the job before you actually apply for a college degree in that. So that would be something I would top of mind for me about this.
Apprenticeship, that's like the another track if you don't pursue college. But yeah, there are definitely people who do an apprenticeship and then they see if they want to specialize. But like there are more and more people taking gap years, for example, because they realize they need that time to find themselves and to explore, right? So Jane just said, okay, how to find the 20%. And it's not like that, immediately, but it's more about, always asking for the next highest leverage point and also just to explore, because 20% is really just trying out like one thing, just like one little thing. like for example, you don't want to apply everything from a fitness training program, but maybe just see, does it work for me to do like a push-up every day? So it doesn't require a lot of time, also possibly not money, but it's like safe enough to explore and see, okay, is that actually driving my growth? So it's but it's a skill that needs to be honed over time. So don't put yourself under pressure here. And yeah, I think the Lightbook assessment is also really helpful. Look at this, category interconnectivity, because they also outline like how your category of interconnectivity might drive growth in your other areas. So I really encourage you to to go back and have a look. All right, so moving on. So the last thing about like a return of investment is I just called this Mason's return on investment formula. It's a LinkedIn article that was posted a couple of years ago, and it's like another way of looking at what learning topic to focus on by considering its value, cost, adoption, and shelf life. And I'm gonna go into more detail in that. So like the value basically means, for example, does what I want to learn, does it raise my relevance and desirability in the marketplace? So is it something that is likely to be relevant, because the life vision, or what you want to learn is not only for yourself, but you also strive like for being financially affluent and having a great career and making an impact in most cases. But these are the extrinsic measures. Yeah. So for example, being an IT technician is relevant and desirable in the marketplace, or at least in the current marketplace, but also look at it from the intrinsic point of view. Is it in alignment with my passions, goals, and values? So this is one way of looking at it in terms of value, and maybe find like the intersection between those. I think Anna, your creativity example was a good one. So like this the student who was very creative, and it was suggested, okay, we have to be an architect because that's needed, that's desirable, which is true, has nothing to do with the value of the student though. So so the skill of creativity might be more pursued in also an area that is also relevant to my passion. Because if you do something that is maybe relevant in the marketplace, but that you're not passionate about, I mean, think about it. Would you like to work with this kind of person, or do you think you'll be able to provide a good service then? Yeah.
Yeah,
so then,
this touches a bit about, if you've seen Ikigai, it's kind of like, what value can you bring to the world, right? That's the extrinsic part, your contribution. And the intrinsic is what you're good at or what you really love. So just marrying the two can have a higher return on investment.
yeah, also the cost. I mean, not only the financial cost, but everything has a cost. Yeah, if it doesn't cost money, it will cost time and energy. So and one way of maybe reducing cost also energy wise is, again, looking at your strongest category in your Lightbook assessment. What are the strengths and resources you already have in your arsenal? Yeah, so do I need to spend money and time on an entire course package that covers lots of things that I am already skilled enough at to take action? I think, Sana, when you mentioned, for example, that sometimes when you take a course, do you need everything from that course? Maybe there's some areas you're already good enough or skilled enough at, so that you can move forward. Then also like a question of future adoption and current adoption. Is the skill you are seeking to learn likely to be relevant and high demand for the future? Again, this is something that you can never completely know for sure, but at least the openness is very important. And one of my favorite examples is the company Kodak. which is which basically went broke because they because their business model was basically based on an outdated assumption. I'm not sure in which book I read. I think it was also by Stephen Kotler, when the digital camera was first introduced to them by somebody, I think in the 70s. Okay, it was not the same digital camera as today, but back then there wouldn't have been an easy way to make this mainstream. Yeah, but Kodak wasn't open enough that this might be something for the future. That there could be like a future adoption, and now we all know what happened. So because their business model was based on that people always have to buy this little camera films, which nobody really needs anymore, unless you may be like a professional photographer who works in this special kind of niche. But yeah, but the openness, and this is why we talked about the capacity of unlearning and being adaptable in the beginning. So what is likely to prevent high demand for the future? If you think, for example, to take a fast typing course, is this still going to be relevant in 10 or 20 years time? It's just about asking yourself these kind of questions as well.
Can I say something about this here?
Yeah.
So as Christian said, it's really hard to identify if something is going to become a future success in the future. So for example, there are a lot of new things right now, right? Like cryptocurrency and NFTs. And it's again a shiny new thing syndrome kind of thing. Should we jump into that or should we not? And this creates kind of a confusion because we don't know if there will be future adoption or if it's a trend. And this is the hardest thing to decide when it comes to our growth. Is this a trend or is it something big in the future? And we'll touch on the fourth point as well, very related to this. But I think my approach would be if this skill or this new thing that I'm going to learn about is current and growing, it's not dying. So I would look at the skill over the past few months. I wouldn't dive in immediately if something is new and people are making it urgent. Like if you don't jump in now, you're going to lose a lot. We know that happened with Bitcoin, and a lot of people were like, go in now or else, I wouldn't just jump in both feet. I would observe the trend and see if it's an upgoing trend or a downgoing trend. And that's kind of how I would measure it. So if I would look at a skill, if it's an emergent skill that is growing or is it dying? Because trends die really fast. So I wouldn't invest time in, say, learning a new dance skill that is trending on Instagram, because by the moment I finish learning that, the trend will die. But I would definitely invest in learning skills to market myself on Instagram that has a longer shelf life. And that's the next point that Christian's going to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So shelf life is also basically the question, how much time will I get to apply these skills once learned? So in this ideal case, I mean, the duration or like the time that you will have to apply this on a consistent basis should be longer than the time you need to to learn this the first time. So one good example might be I think Anna, you mentioned this morning. If you're like 2 years into your retirement, and you know you're not going to pursue this anymore, is your time, money, energy best invested into something that might be important for the company that you're working on, but maybe not important for for your life as it's going on? For me, for example, so in my school, there's a certain subject area I have to teach this year because of like personal problems, or not personnel problems, but it's urgent, but it's not something I'm going to focus on in the future. So is my my time, money, and energy well invested into really boosting the skills because it seems to be so immediately relevant? So that's also the question about shelf life.
Yeah. So shelf life is basically about two things. It's about if I need the skill, just like Christian said, if, for example, you're just going into a career and you're looking into going to in this career for the next 20 plus years, whatever time you invest in this learning a skill to make you successful in that career, well, 12 plus years. So it's worth investing money and time and energy into it. Obviously, not 20 years of investment per se. But if you are thinking of retiring next year, do you really need to learn everything about that skill that you need to apply only the next year if it's not relevant for the future? So that's one way of looking at shelf life. And also shelf life can be the shelf life of the content you're consuming. So is this content going to be relevant in the future? You know how in school they used to test us on irrelevant things, like you have a geography test and they're going to ask you what's the area of the United States or what's the area of Berlin or something like that. Do you really need to invest an entire day trying to learn the number down to the decimals? Or do you just need to read it just before the exam and write it down and they say, oh, I'm done with it? You know, so that's kind of also shelf life. Sorry.
Yeah, or instead of like memorizing every landmark or every city or every street, which takes a lot of time, what about you learn how do I read a map? Actually, yeah. So it's also like the 20/80 rule again, always coming back.
Yeah. So some tips here would be focus on building skills for the future, as we said, like emerging new skills that have a rapid turnaround, and always focus on learning skills rather than the content, right? Like reading the map is a skill instead of learning the content, because if you know the skill, you can apply it when you need it real fast. Another thing is always develop curiosity. So if something new comes up and you're like, oh my God, my manager asked me something new, or in my business, I need to do this specific thing, you know how to use the 80-20 rule to learn exactly what you need and only what you need to just move beyond that obstacle, instead of investing time and energy in things that you won't need to apply immediately and so on. And also invest time in learning foundational skills and principles again, because anything that's foundational and specifically anything that you can leverage in multiple areas of your life, that's a good investment of time, money, and energy. So basically what you're doing is, we have done our PVP as a kind of the PVP part for our learning, and then we're choosing strategies. What type of strategy you want to choose? You want to choose the strategies that you can apply on multiple areas, or say, I'm going to pay this much money and I'm going to invest this much time and energy. What can I learn, or which strategy can I learn so that I can use this skill across multiple areas of my life, or for a longer shelf life, right? For longer years. So that's kind of some tips on how to approach choosing the material we learn. And the last point is the importance of identifying, and we'll touch on this more next session, I believe, is that not always the answer is taking a course, because courses can be like cost more money and more time. Sometimes we just need to identify, do I need to take an entire course, or is there a the 80-20 rule that I can apply? Maybe a podcast has all the answers I need to take the next step. Maybe an article has that. Maybe a chapter in a book has that. I think one of the limiting beliefs we might have is that if I start a course, I need to take the course in its entirety, and I need to go from chapter 1 to chapter the last one. Or if I'm reading a book, I need to read the entire book, and I need to read it from page 1 to page 200. If we just question that again, say, wait a minute, maybe I can just read this one chapter that I need to apply right now, or just take this lesson from this course because I need it right now, and I skip the others for until when I need it. So these are the type of questions we want to ask, as we said in the beginning, with the mindset of unlearning these trends of, oh, well, that's the 10th lesson. I need to watch all the lessons until I get to that one. So that's something to think about.
Okay, so that's not, yes, now, yeah, moving on to our final point. So having, looked at our mental models and having gotten the first idea that that we need to challenge them, and also maybe having like a first framework of how we can narrow down on what we want to learn and unlearn, how might we now approach selecting the right resources? Okay, so there are two exercises that might be helpful for you to have basically a decision-making framework of what kind of learning materials to choose, because there's a lot of things you can do. You can take university course, you can work with a coach, you can ask a mentor, you can read books, you can have a chat, you can have a conversation. So one thing of how you may want to approach this is evaluating your learning style. So this is the BARC model, and it's quite popular. Maybe you have come across this already. And there are lots of different assessments that you can find for free online, which help you to evaluate what your preferred learning style is. But maybe you also already know. Anna, I think we're gonna post one or two assessments in the comment section then, yeah, for people to take. So
I'll include it in the workbook next week.
Yeah, that too. So like looking at your preferred learning style, what kind of learning resources, materials might help you leverage your growth towards your goals the most? So for me, for example, so I'm mostly a visual kind of learner, which might not have been evident in the slides because there was maybe like some text a bit. But knowing that I mostly learn visually, and it's basically, by the way, it's not an either or question. You're not either visual or auditory or kinesthetic. So it's but they're like varying degrees, yeah, of what area might most likely apply to you. So for example, I'm very visual. So this is why I really so like this book here, because it has some like very nice illustrations. So this is a hint for me that, okay, this might be like the right learning material for me because it has some like lots of visual cues to help me learn. Yeah, or looking at models or infographics, or when I see a course with a video, that is like knowing my learning style might be like the first hint of what kind of resource and materials I want to choose. Samantha, so the workbook is, we haven't uploaded it yet. It will be uploaded at the latest by next Sunday, by the end of workshop 3. So yeah, just bear with us, but it will be posted in the comment section. Okay. So a further approach that kind of builds onto that is it's called Kirkpatrick's evaluation model, and this is mostly used in to evaluate the effectiveness of corporate trainings. And what they do basically is like they look at 4 different areas. So reaction, how did participants respond to the training? So how were they engaged? Was it beneficial for them? What was the degree of actually applying what they learned? How much did they learn? How much did they improve? And did the results actually lend itself to the goals that were being pursued? So like in the last session, I kind of love to hack these kind of models and kind of readjust them for our purposes. So because we are like still at the beginning. So I was wondering, what about we adapt this model a little bit and start off with that at the beginning of the journey by asking us these kind of questions. So when you select when you want to have an approach to select your resources, materials for your learning, for growing in your topic, maybe ask yourself, how likely are you really going to actively engage with the learning material? So if I know that I'm mainly a visual learner, maybe like so that's a book I'm also currently reading, but the writing is very, very small, and I really hate that, which is too bad because it's actually a good book. How likely am I going to engage with the learning material? And I realized that I read this book much faster and much more efficiently than the other one. Then also look at how likely will this learning resource and material help you to develop knowledge, skills, expertise, and mindset. Yeah, is it just something that gives you an overall overview about everything, or does it lends itself to like immediate application? Yeah, which comes like to point 3. How likely is this resource actually conducive to immediate application and change in your behavior? So I use this book again as the example, like because every chapter finishes with a small exercise, for example. And this helps me identify, okay, so knowing that this always ends with an exercise, something I can apply immediately. This is like one hint for me. This might be like the right learning material for me. Yeah, or I think that's also like the reasons why Mind Valley quests are so effective, because after every little video, there's one actionable step you can take straight away. Whereas when you take, for example, a university course, maybe that's important for you, like so if you become like a doctor or engineer, for example, and you really need to have like in-depth mastery knowledge, that might help you. But might there be like college courses where you learn a lot, you consume a lot of knowledge, but it doesn't lend itself to immediate action, for example? Just asking you these questions. And yeah, finally, how likely will the application behavior change lead to the outcomes you desire? So is it going to be effective? I think also the question of like authority comes into place. So not only necessarily like how many people are taking this workshop, but like how effective has this been, or like this learning material for other people who had maybe similar goals as you did. I know you have something to add.
Yeah, I wanted to say that one thing we can leverage with the internet is reviews. So before consuming any material, we can actually check the reviews of that material to see if people are have really learned something from this and it has led to change. Especially, remember we said invest more in learning skills than in content. So that's one thing. Also, if you can find ways to engage with the people who took the course. And another thing I think that can work with Mind Valley content is because they have these communities, whether it's the Connections app or the network, the communities or the tribes, you can actually talk to the people who took the course and say, ask them questions about your learning styles, right? See if it fits your learning style, see if it fits this evaluation model, right? What are you looking for? And ask them, because sometimes we don't have access to the content, right? Like you go to a library, you scan through a book to see if it fits your learning style. But some books come in nylon packs that you cannot open. So you want to check the reviews and ask the people. It's similar with courses. Sometimes they have detailed pages of what is included, but you really don't know that is there activities, is there a type of activity that will help you turn that knowledge into experience and skill. So it's really good to do the research. Like Christian actually asked me questions about a course I took last week. He really did interrogate me and kind of find out if it was the right fit for him to take that course. So those are things you can leverage when it comes to deciding, especially with courses or books to read.
Okay, so here we go. I have to scroll down, not up. So I know this has been a lot to take in for today, and a lot to digest, and we know this topic. 3 workshops doesn't do this very important and very interesting and crucial topic justice. But I hope that you do have some insights or key takeaways, and next week we're also going to have the workbook. So when you go to the workshops again, then I hope you can take the time to also get some clarity on your growth journey. And Anna and I are in constant on the constant path of gaining clarity, but also be humble about being wrong at the time. So that's why we started the last 2 courses with mindset, really, and the internal capacities that are needed to be okay with being wrong, and to challenge assumptions and to unlearn. So and when we go back to the prioritization of our growth plan, maybe if you take some time throughout the week with what you learned today, maybe there might be some changes of how you evaluate your learning and growth plan. So maybe based on what you know now, maybe what you have scheduled in the blue box, maybe you realize, okay, this is maybe based on an old mental model, which is not necessarily true anymore. Or maybe there's one thing I want to eliminate. So it's might be helpful to come back to that once in a while. Okay, so the workshop time is officially over, but of course we are happy to for having a Q&A for those who want to stay longer. I also would like, if you want, that you can do this verbally. So if somebody wants to raise your hand and maybe ask them further question, or if you want to share some key takeaways, now would be the time. Otherwise, thank you so much for being part of this today, and we're really looking forward to next week.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Again, there are so many strategies that we couldn't mention here. A lot of them are popping in my mind right now, but I don't want to overwhelm you with new ideas. We did have one question from Divyata. I don't know if she's on. I think she left, but they can watch this in the recording. So they said, I'm struggling to not be able to learn a programming tool because it's not my niche, but just doing so to make more money or to just get a job. Any tips? Christian?
Can you repeat this question again? I was just looking at the chat, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm going to post the question again at the bottom. So you can also read it.
I'm struggling to not able to learn a programming tool because it's not my niche, but just doing so make more money or just get a job. So this is how I approach this. Why do you think you need to learn this programming tool? I personally don't know about programming, but if you realize it's not your niche and you struggle with that, I'd be wondering, to what extent does it have anything to do with your goals that you have? And I think again, it's comes back to the to this value question. So I mean, learning being a programmer, that is a good job opportunity in general. But ask yourself if it's really not for you, and if it's a constant pain for you, are you going to provide the value that would be required in order to get to your goal of financial affluence. Yeah, so that's a question I would be asking myself.
Yeah, I'd also ask what programming tool is this? Because some of the programming tools are actually dying skills. So is it really good time investment to invest in a tool like that, learning a tool like that? So it's really important to identify if this programming language you want to learn is a growing skill and is it has future adoption, or is it a dying skill?
Yeah, there's one story from actually Jason Mark Campbell, who when he went to university, he learned a programming language because the narrative was, oh, programming is the next biggest thing, it's emergent, so we need to learn the programming language so you're employable. Thing is, like with programming languages, you know, how what is their shelf life? Yeah, so if it's not your main area, or if you're not like an IT specialist, like how valuable is this going to be for you? That's it might be. So I of course I don't know your other circumstances, but yeah, these are the questions I would be asking myself. I hope that helped.
Yeah, another suggestion would be actually go with your own values first before looking at the extrinsic values, because it helps you narrow down, like, what are the things I really love and enjoy and they give me energy versus what are the things I don't love and drain my energy. Once you have that, you have narrowed down the options, then you look at outside and decide, okay, what kind of value can I bring to humanity? What's available out there, you know, that aligns with my value.
Yeah, there's one question from Oscar, and then after that, Turas. So Oscar is asking, so is it best to focus on our category of strength or to learn in the category less developed? Is there another idea? I personally think it's not a question of either or. So basically, category of strength, this might give you a hint on things that you're already good at, and that might be relevant in other areas. Yeah. So for example, if you're really strong in the social category and it's easy for you to connect with other people, this is a strength you can utilize in your career section, career life, maybe in the area of a love relationship. So I think it's always helpful to see, okay, oh, I already have these skills. I just need to apply them to other areas, and maybe do not have to take like a course or read a book about it. I can take immediate action with the skills I have. So that's one thing. And the category of I'll just go back. The category of that is less developed. Yeah. So this is where the category of interconnectivity comes into play. So when you do the Lifebook assessment, you have the category of strength. Then you select the category of focus, which is usually the category you want to work on the most. For me, would be, for example, the financial one. And then you have the category of interconnectivity that gives you a hint, like what is the category that that leverages, that might be helpful to look at to leverage your growth in the other areas, or that might help you to get a head start. Yeah. So maybe if it's your category of focus, the financial one, and your category of interconnectivity might be then character, to take responsibility of your finances or track them daily. So I hope that answer helped.
I can add here as well. So when it comes to strength, whether you want to focus on your strengths or weaknesses, it highly depends on what your goal is, right? So obviously, when it comes to different categories of your life, you want to make sure that you're improving all of them. But to what extent do you improve them? So usually what you want to do to get better ROI in return on your investment of time, energy, and money in the future, what you want to do is, remember the Bruce Lee quote, you want to become an expert in your niche. So what that means is you want to focus on your strengths. So focus on improving your strengths so you become an expert in that one area. What that means is you will be spending less time, less energy, and making more money when you're investing in becoming a stronger or an expert in your strengths. Now, when it comes to your weaknesses, if your weakness is it is an obstacle to improve one of your areas, you definitely want to improve that. But if your weakness is something that you really don't need in your growth plan, it has nothing to do with your life vision, like I don't know how to play the piano, or I suck at French. Do I really need to improve that? So that's the question. You can remove a lot of the weaknesses you don't need to improve unless they are you're struggling with a category because of it, or it's an obstacle toward your life vision. Other than that, it's always better to improve your strengths and become stronger and an expert than to focus on weaknesses that are really not a good return on your investment. I hope that's helpful, Oscar.
Yeah, thank you. And a very, very important point. Is it a barrier or major barrier to your growth? Okay, Arturas, yeah, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for the session. It is useful, really. And the question would be, first of all, it was a story from the last year, because I took a course for 6 months long for quality assurance in automotive software testing. And it was okay. From the beginning, it was interesting, then it was annoying, but hopefully it was financed through the European Union funds, and I need to pay in only 5% of the cost. But in time, it was half a year, or almost half a year, and more or less in the middle, I understood that it is not for me. It is not for me. And the question is, and even I finished it, I qualified it, but I haven't even find the time to take my certificate from this organization. And the question is, when I'm figuring out that this is not for me, then hopefully it's immediate decision is to be done to stop it, to finish it, and to go to the other things, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I think one of the mindset or limiting beliefs we might have, I have this, is if I start something, I need to finish it. And that's not always true. It's like the investment, like last night, I'll be honest here. Last night I had pizza and I couldn't eat the entire thing, but I was like, I paid for this, I need to eat it. Well, it's very similar how we look at things like, oh my God, I've invested 5 months already. I can invest the remaining 1 month, or I've invested so much money, right? But remember, with the ROI, you have all these different pieces. There's money, there's time, there's energy. If this course or this material is draining your energy and taking your time, especially with you, Arturas, you paid just 5%. It should have been an easier decision to just say, I didn't even invest the money. Let me just run for the hills and leave this course. But it gets tough when you have invested too much money or too much time. That's why we always say, go back to the beginning, have that clarity before even investing the time and the energy and the money. Make that choice of, okay, if I'm putting this much money, like last month, I had this opportunity to meet people that I would probably never ever see. And the thing was, I had to purchase a membership for $50 to be able to attend this meeting. I was like, but I don't want to pay $50 for this right now. But when I twisted it and I said, Anna, would you pay $50 to have dinner with these people? I'm like, oh, that's cheap. Considering I'm having dinner with people like Vishnu Lakiani, that's cheap. So what I did was I twisted it and it felt, so the value, it's not the money, it's the value, right? Remember, Christian said authority. So for example, if a course is $10 and you don't know who's delivering it, it might be expensive. But if it's a course delivered by Tony Robbins and it's $1,000, you're like, oh my God, that's cheap. I thought it's going to be like $6,000. And 1,000 is cheap, right? So it's about a question of how you look at things. And then time, always, time is more valuable than the money. You can make more money, but you can't make more time. So that's also something I would consider. Christian, anything you want to add?
I think you nailed it down perfectly. It's like this feeling of of maybe like shame and guilt coming up. I know this also like from university. So for me, it was very difficult to change my major or my degree halfway, because I was saying, okay, what are my parents going to say, who are helping me financing this? What are people thinking of me, that I'm always, that I'm changing my mind? But the question is, am I allowing myself to pass on the key to to my happiness and well-being to other people, or really looking at myself and see how am I going to benefit from this in the long run? Am I willing to accept all this pain, just not to upset other people? Because often, like, we judge these things by the standards not set by us, but by the standards set by other people. So I think this also ties into that. But I think Anna summed it up very beautifully.
Another thing, I think, Christian, you were mentioning this this morning with some type of questions that I think Vishen would ask. I think it all comes down to asking the right questions before jumping in, asking as many questions, like why, ask why a million times. Say, if I do this, like, I am going to do this because, Christian, you had an example, I think, from Vishen.
It's asking like there were like two kinds of questions. The ended question, I can't really recall that, but maybe let's illustrate with like a very current example. So I enrolled for the certified life coach with Mind Valley. I was wondering, okay, is it maybe full? Am I just doing it because it's like cheaper now and it's going to be more expensive later? But then I asked myself, okay, why am I taking this course? How is it going to help me? In which other areas of life can I use and apply those skills? What's the shelf life? And having like a education background and seeing, what kind of developments are happening, maybe not on a large scale, but slowly on an exponential scale in terms of personalized learning and supporting people individually in their learning and growth. I'm like, okay, yeah, these are very good key points. Plus, I know I also realize that I'm stuck as a life book leader sometimes to dig deeper in delivering the transformative experience I want to deliver. So these are all the kinds of questions I'm asking myself, and also like, is it going to be a good return of investment? Yeah, is it something that is more likely to bring money back? If I do like a 2-year master in psychology, it's like 3 years of learning lots of things. Some of them might be applicable, relevant. I have the like in-depth knowledge, but yeah. So these are all the kind of questions I'm asking myself. Yeah. I do this so I can. Then I do this so I can. Okay. So seems like there are no further questions. Yeah, on that note, thank you very much again for participation. Really amazing how that still the majority of people stayed for 20 minutes longer. I know it's a big commitment of your time and energy to do this on the Sunday. And yeah, thank you so much for joining, and see you next week, hopefully.